I think we all wish that YouTube growth could be like a straight line on a graph that just keeps going up. But unfortunately, in real life, it is not like that.
It usually looks a bit more like this.
If you have previously found growth on YouTube, but you're currently feeling stuck, I made this video for you. Most likely, you're currently stuck in what I call the growth gap.
That's the spot on the graph between your last big growth spurt and the success that you'll see in the future. The growth gap really reminds me of The Lurch, you know, from like that Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. I remember reading that book as a kid, and the lurch part genuinely freaked me out. Like, I was actually kind of scared of it. Like, I hated reading that page.
And being in the YouTube growth gap feels pretty scary too, because it feels like you're losing the traction that you worked so hard to gain. But it is possible to get out of the YouTube growth gap. You just need to implement this one missing step in your YouTube growth strategy.
All right, so as I'm sure many of us are familiar with, the formula for growing a YouTube channel from scratch is in-demand topics, basically what content are people searching for, plus engaging edits and clickable thumbnails multiplied by consistency equals growth. Doing this will help you get your first 1,000, maybe even first 100,000 subscribers. But unfortunately, it doesn't guarantee a profitable career. Having a sustainable long-term career as a content creator where you actually make enough money to support yourself, it's about consistently creating content that your community will click on and watch every single time. In fact, when we focus too much on this formula, it can actually be to the detriment of our growth and can lead to that growth gap. There comes a crucial point in any creator's growth trajectory on YouTube where you need to make quite a pivot in your strategy actually, so that you can achieve that next level of growth that is going to turn this into like a real income generating business for you. That's basically the missing step.
So how do you know if you are in the growth gap right now? Here are a few signs to consider. 1, you have been pretty much exclusively targeting search traffic for a while now. You maybe mostly make tutorials. Maybe you've stalled out in subscriber growth or like the average view count on your videos. If only videos on very specific topics get viewed for you, and you find that anytime you incorporate more personal content, it just flops, that's a good sign that you're in the growth gap. Another one is not having a lot of repeat viewers. So inside YouTube Studio, if you go to analytics and then click on audience and you compare your unique viewers to your returning viewer count, if you have a really low number of returning viewers, that's maybe a sign that you're in the growth gap. Now, of course, we're always aiming to gain new viewers as well. Like if you had the opposite situation where 100% of your viewers were returning, that would also pose a problem because that means that you're not growing. But what tends to happen to creators in the growth gap is you've become so hyper-focused on always bringing in new viewers that you're not really attracting viewers to watch you again. And that is a huge hurdle in actually developing a community and a loyal audience. Another sign is low engagement in your comments. So even on videos where you feel like you're getting a decent number of views, you're still not getting a lot of comments, and possibly the vibes are off in the comment section, if you know what I mean. And finally, another sign is you're not getting a great conversion rate from views on YouTube over to followers on other platforms like Instagram or TikTok, or joining your email list. These are basically all signs that while you've been successful at acquiring an audience, you maybe just haven't quite fostered a community yet. People are watching your content for your content, not necessarily for you. And so they're not really connected with you personally, and therefore maybe aren't going to be loyal enough to like purchase through your affiliate links, buy the brands that you recommend, purchase your own merch or your products. Here's the thing. This is a very, very common problem for growing creators, because the fact is it's extremely difficult to grow an audience that watches you for you from the very beginning. Like that's pretty much impossible. For the vast majority of us creators, we have to grow our audience, at least initially, by providing information or education, entertainment of some form, or like commentary on a very specific topic. Basically, the content is going to be around a subject area that is of interest to the viewer, because the truth is, like, as a brand new creator, you are not the subject area of interest, like unless you are a very special, unique person, but it's very uncommon. So I just want to emphasize that to say, if you feel like you're in the situation, don't feel alone. This happens to like 90% of creators, I want to say. But basically the challenge becomes, at some point you need to try to bridge that growth gap and go from having viewers that come to your content for the information, for the subject matter, and then have them coming back because they like you, they like your vibe, they like your personality. I'm not saying this means that you get to a point where you can just make content exclusively about your life and that every creator is able to make that transition, because that's just not the reality of content, right? Like not every viewer is looking to eventually follow like a lifestyle creator. But what I do mean is like when you have that buy-in from your audience and you've built that trust, you've built that more personal relationship, it is going to afford you more creative freedom and also have a higher conversion when it comes to the business side of being a creator, like having people actually purchase stuff from you because they like you and they trust you. So I just want to emphasize this whole missing step thing is not about you transitioning to become a vlogger or a lifestyle creator. It's about building personal trust with your viewers so that you have a loyal audience to have a little bit more creative freedom and you can effectively build a business doing this. All right, so how do we bridge that growth gap? The gap between acquiring viewers and having a true community. In simpler terms, how do we make people who stumble across our videos and watch them actually start to care about us as creators and feel excited about watching all of our future videos too, even if we evolve creatively over time? The main thing is we need to start focusing more on the returning viewer crowd rather than just constantly optimizing for brand new viewers, which is often the case when we're optimizing for search. Now, we can't leave behind trying to gain new viewers altogether though. Obviously, that's an important part of growth. We need to learn how to attract new viewers while still maintaining the attention and engagement of our existing audience. My ultimate theory and philosophy behind how to do this comes down to one thing, and that is the balance of familiarity and novelty. This is probably the most random example in the world, but 3 years ago, Tom Scott made a video about a float through McDonald's. Okay, so like a drive-through, but you go through on a boat. And he shared an incredibly valuable insight about content creation in this random little video.
If everything changes, people don't like it and they move to other things. But if nothing changes, people get bored and they move to other things.
This is so highly applicable to content creators. We need to find ways to maintain consistency and familiarity in our brand, in our target audience, in our subject matter. But in each video, we need to find 1 or 2 interesting ways that we can make it different, make it new, novel, interesting. I really believe that that is the key to being able to do both, maintaining the interest of your existing audience and drawing in new viewers, which is ultimately the way to get over that growth gap and reach the next level of success on YouTube. Okay, my first tip is that you need to do something different. I want to challenge you to make content that is quite different than what you have been typically doing. Because if you're in the growth gap, chances are you've maybe been doing the same thing for a little while now. Look, I know that this is so scary, and the truth is like YouTube Studio really like conditions us psychologically to just want to replicate the last video that we made that did really well. We're always chasing that 1 out of 10. It's so addictive. So we look at our analytics in the last video that did really well and we ask ourselves, how can I make this video again, but just like a little bit different? But if you do that too often and for too long, then your returning viewers are going to get bored of it. It becomes repetitive, and so people stop watching, which means maybe you're getting new viewers, but you're not really fostering a community. But again, it comes down to this delicate balance of not throwing everything out the window and pivoting like 180 degrees and doing something totally different, but at the same time being fresh and new enough that it doesn't become boring. So the way that I want you to approach this is to try changing a single variable. You're going to want to choose either format or subject matter. If you're changing up the format, then you're going to continue to cover the same sort of subject that you normally do, but you're going to switch up the packaging. So here's a personal example for you. To be totally transparent, this whole topic is something that I've been feeling kind of insecure about with my own YouTube channel for the past several months. And so I've been really trying to use this method. I'm covering the same subject matter that I always have, but I'm trying to do it in a different format to switch things up. That's why lately I've been doing some hands-on tutorials, some camera reviews, some chatty commentary videos, and some more just typical strategy videos like this. But no matter the format I'm using, I'm still talking about strategies, advice, stuff for content creators. I realized at the end of last year that I had been trying to replicate my past successes for too long, and it was becoming pretty repetitive. And since I switched things up, it has definitely made a difference. Just take a look at these screenshots from YouTube Studio. The results definitely don't lie. Okay, so that is keeping your subject matter the same, but changing your format. Another option is you can keep your format the same, but change up the subject matter. I personally think that Michelle Correa is like the gold standard for this on YouTube. Not me using myself for one of the examples, and then YouTube legend Michelle Correa is the other, but you'll have to forgive me. She has the same format, her show Challenge Accepted, every single time, but the challenges vary a ton, which is what keeps it so novel and fresh and gets people to come back. From I tried Houdini's deadliest trick to I tried delivering a baby, the same engaging format brings back viewers again and again, and every time we're entertained by a brand new, unexpected experience. So I want you to decide what variable you're going to switch up. Do you want to try switching up your subject matter or your format? Pick one and start experimenting with it, and chances are you might see similar results to what I did. Okay, so part 2 in the missing step in your YouTube growth strategy is to make every video worth watching. Simply asking yourself every time you go to produce a new video, if someone has watched my last 3 videos, would they still get value out of this one? If the answer is, well, probably not, they could probably just watch those last 3 videos instead, then you might want to pick a different idea for your next video. If you want a loyal audience that clicks on every thumbnail and watches every video to the end, then you need to create videos that are worth watching every time for that same viewer. Now look, of course I know that you're already making videos worth watching. That's why you've seen the growth that you have and found yourself in the growth gap. But what I want to emphasize here is the every time for each viewer thing. You really want to ask yourself, what about this next video is adding extra value or new insight that I haven't before? What is something fresh or new or different that I could bring to this next video to make it worth watching in addition to my last? When my audience clicks on this next video, is there a possibility that they're going to think, haven't I watched this before? This is something that I am really trying to challenge myself with, especially lately. And it's something that I want to challenge you to do as well. And I think that it is actually specifically difficult to overcome this because that early stage of YouTube growth actually incentivizes us to do quite the opposite of this. Like the way that a lot of us initially grow and then initially end up in the growth gap is that we create really consistent videos on the same sort of topics over and over again. This is perfect for getting your videos to rank well in search because you build up authority on that topic in the YouTube search algorithm. So once you get that dialed in, like you are really good at it, right? You're churning out videos on the same sort of topics, but like slightly different angles just all the time. And the YouTube search algorithm's loving it. But the people who don't love it are the people who are subscribed and feel like they're getting the same video every week. Okay, look, this is a self-read as much as anything, but I think it's a really, really common struggle for a lot of creators that grow this way. And it's hard to transition when you're so used to that old strategy working really well for you. So the name of the game here is really making every video worth watching for both your new viewers who are seeing you for the first time and for your returning viewers who have seen a bunch of your old videos. Again, this all comes down to the blend between familiarity and novelty. One really great strategy for this is providing context in a way that is fun and entertaining for your existing audience. Again, this blends the familiar and the novel. For new viewers coming in, you want to provide that introduction, that context so that they can get the most out of your video and your story. But if you repeat the same bland old intro in every single video, your returning viewers are gonna get annoyed with that and probably stop watching. One of the best examples of this strategy, perfectly executed in my opinion, is one of my favorite channels, Kingin' It, but they tend to do these intros that get you up to speed on where we're at in their story, whether it's their travels or their cottage renovation. They do a new, fun, fresh edit of this every time, so it's not just like the same old theme song, but it's super helpful for new viewers to know who the characters are, what's the setting of the scene, and what can we expect from today's story. So definitely give them a watch if you want some inspiration around storytelling and vlogging and how you can make it like very accessible to new viewers, but also super entertaining for your community. Another great way to blend the familiar and the novel is by switching up your soundtrack to something fresh and exciting. Something like this, for instance. Wait, Katie, what are you doing? We're gonna get demonetized for this. No, don't worry, it's all good. I'm using Licked, the sponsor of this video. Don't skip ahead because you're gonna wanna find out how I'm using a Fleetwood Mac song in the background of my YouTube video without getting demonetized and how you can do it too for free when you use my link. So Licked is this really cool platform that allows YouTubers to use mainstream popular music in their YouTube videos completely legally, where you stay protected from copyright claims and without getting demonetized. Licked has over 1.4 million tracks, including huge mainstream artists like Paramore, Kesha, Dua Lipa, Sabrina Carpenter, and more, as well as tens of thousands of stock tracks. You can search for your favorite artist or filter by genre, mood, or tempo. It's super easy to use. You can just browse for the music that you want and then check out with a license to that song. And it relies on that same principle of familiarity and novelty. By using familiar music that your audience loves in your YouTube videos, you increase your watch time and retention. Okay, but the best part is you can try it out for free. This is actually an exclusive offer that Licked has allowed me to share with you all. This is the first time they've ever offered a free trial that includes access to one mainstream track as well as unlimited stock music. They may not offer this again, and it's only available for a limited time. Using my exclusive link, you can get a 7-day free trial that includes access to one mainstream track, unlimited stock music. So if you've been dying to use that one song from Sabrina Carpenter or Justin Bieber without getting your YouTube video demonetized, now is your chance to do it. So if you're watching this video close to the published date, then the free trial offer is probably still active. Go ahead and click that link and snag it now. And if you're watching a little later down the line, you should still go check out Licked nonetheless, because it is the perfect way to spice up the soundtrack to your YouTube videos with songs that your audience already knows and love, therefore increasing that average view duration, which is so important for your YouTube channel's growth. Go snag that free trial offer from Licked at the link in my description. And once again, thanks to Licked for sponsoring this video. So if you really want to cross that growth gap and cultivate an audience of viewers that actually care about you and not just the content that you create, then you need to start to infuse your story into your content. But here's the key. You need to include your own story without, by consequence, including less of the subject matter that your audience has come to your videos for. That's why it doesn't really work to just randomly post a vlog one day. So instead, you need to delicately infuse more of your own story, your own personality into your regular content. So how do you include more of your own story and personality without forsaking the subject matter of your content altogether? Well, here's the truth. Sometimes when we're getting started as content creators, we can actually kind of hide behind our niche a little bit. You never really talk about yourself, only the subject at hand. Maybe it's because you're intentionally trying to be more private, which is totally valid, but maybe it's because you're subconsciously just a little bit afraid of rejection. To get more audience buy-in, you're gonna want to infuse more of yourself into your content. Like, give people a reason to watch your videos on your niche rather than everybody else's videos who are in your niche. Here are a few quick ways you can do that. One is sharing personal anecdotes or experience that back up whatever it is you're talking about in your video. Or you can address why you personally care about this topic, like why you're passionate about it. Or finally, you could address where your knowledge comes from on the matter. Like, tell a quick backstory about how you learned what you're sharing with us in the video. It's not that you need to become a vlogger all of a sudden. Like I said earlier in the video, this is not about teaching everybody to eventually transition into a lifestyle creator. That's not the point. It's about sharing enough of yourself and the parts that are relevant to build more of a relationship with your viewers so they actually care about watching your videos on X topic rather than somebody else's video on X topic. So it's not about just all of a sudden making a vlog. It's about slowly and intentionally slipping your own lore into the videos you're already making. I like to call this the dad lore method. You know how dads rarely sit down and just say, like, let me tell you a story from my youth. Like, you never hear that. Instead, it's more like some random day when the conversation happens to be about traffic infractions that your dad slips into the conversation that when he was in his 20s, he got so many speeding tickets that he had to go fight them in court to keep his license. And then you're left saying, and you've been nagging me all these years about driving safely? Dad lore is never boring, and you never know when you're gonna receive it. It's just slipped into a conversation and it leaves you wanting more. But you can never ask for dad lore. In fact, asking for dad lore is like the quickest way for your dad to stop talking. You just gotta wait until it drops. And I think you can think about including your personality and your own story in your YouTube videos the same way that dads include their lore in everyday conversations. It's at unexpected times, but it's always entertaining. And it's just a great way to build that connection between you and your viewer without completely derailing the purpose of your channel. Closing the YouTube growth gap really comes down to striking the perfect blend between the familiar and the novel. And it does just take time and practice to find that balance. So don't feel discouraged if it takes you a while. If you want to bring a novel and fresh approach to your videos, one great way to do that is through additional visuals and B-roll. So you should check out this video that I made with a ton of creative and cinematic B-roll ideas that are easy for beginners but make a big difference in the final product of your YouTube video. So check that out next if it's of interest to you. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having adventures and following your dreams, and I'll catch you in the next video. Okay, bye.